the best experience as a rugby league player is running out in the Queensland jersey at Suncorp Stadium.
And Hunt goes himself as he can, and he picks up another one. He goes Payne Haas. Oh, look at that.
He is big, he is strong, he can offload.
Here goes for Fido.
It would have been easier to stop a truck that was coming that way.
Hammerso Tabuai Fido. It's hammer time.
Will now. She gets down low. She'll get it down this time. Victors in Women's State of Origin 2021.
Well, thanks for joining us on a very special State of Origin edition here on Queenslander before we win the decider at Suncorp Stadium, boys. Fingers crossed that's the case. Now the team's been named for Queensland, what do we need to do better to win the decider?
Look, I know the scoreline doesn't reflect it, but we weren't that far away. It was just the sort of final 30 minutes where the score blew out. Look, I think what it highlights is what we did in game one by sort of taking away Nathan Cleary's time and space, it had a big impact on them. And we saw if he does get time and space, what he's capable of. So you got to win those little effort areas in the ruck. You got to be able to, slow the ball down, not sort of illegally, but just be good with your contact and be able to sort of control that ruck area so you've got line speed against their key players. And so I don't think they need to do a lot different.
Yeah, I agree, Lockie, perfectly. Dictate terms. They've got to take control, and once they get in control, keep that throughout the course of the match. They don't have to score on every play. Just make sure they're in the right position at the right time, and if they can't effectively put points on the board, make it as tough as possible for New South Wales to get out of their own territory.
And Billy, on game one, day one of this camp, straight away did the review with the team. What would he have identified there, Lockie?
After the game, he talked about a lot of lapse in concentration, and I think a lot of those lapses came with fatigue. I think he would sort of look at some of the tries that they scored and just the lack of communication between the defensive line on the edges. I think that was a bit of a concern, how easily they got through the line in the end. But sometimes, you've got some really capable or experienced centres there and halves, but you've got two inexperienced wingers.
Yeah.
So that for mine, it's that centre-wing combination. We see a lot in clubland. You get those two really need to be on the same page to sort of mitigate a lot of their shift work.
Yeah, it didn't appear to be a lot of understanding or cohesion between them as well, and that made it a little bit easier for the Blues to be able to find their way through. So hopefully spending a bit of time together in that game and also in the preparations for Game 3 will make them a lot more comfortable.
You mentioned the defensive structure, Lockie. Felice Kafusi's been the cornerstone of that for nearly 5 years. How big a loss is he?
Oh, huge. I think the four men, which is where Kafusi plays, are probably the most important players in the defensive line because they communicate to the middle guys who have got a big job to do, and they have to work under a lot of fatigue at times, and then they have to work with their edges and talk to their halves and their centres a lot. So it's a big loss, but I've got to we've got to have some belief in Nene, because I think he's a talent. And the positive thing is he's coming out of a club where the Cowboys have got a really good defensive system. They have really good habits. So it's now just to step it up to another level for Jeremiah. And, I'm confident he can do the job.
Man, Nanai's got youth. It's the one thing I know for Lisa. I'm not insulting him here, calling me a pensioner, but he's a wonderfully talented player that's a real workhorse. But after seeing Nanai's performances for the Cowboys, he's done that week in, week out. So hopefully he'll be able to fill the role, as will the other players there, because they will be required to work as a team, as a unit, and share it around, because they certainly won't be handed an easy job by the New South Welshmen.
I'm looking forward to what Nanai can bring in attack. Yeah.
Those crossfield kicks, maybe a few catches, scoring there near the post. You both played in deciders at Suncorp Stadium. How much is the crowd worth in that game?
They definitely give you energy. But you got to get them excited, and that means you got to play well. You got to come out there with intensity, be physical, and get the crowd into it. And I've probably seen over the years where if you get one try and the crowd gets really pumped, you might get a couple straight after, because while it has that really good effect on the Queenslanders, it can become a little bit intimidating for the Blues too. So, look, it's the best experience we've got in this country, I reckon. Go to cider at Suncorp.
Yeah,
so
pretty handy to be playing at home, isn't it? A wonderful opportunity, and it does. It inspires the players. They get behind it. I think we've both had those times, Lockie, where you know that times are tough, but inspired by those around you, and in the grandstands, the Queenslanders they provide wonderful support. They never turn on the Maroons. There'll be disappointment there, but they'll certainly be able to make sure that the challenge is there to produce the big plays when they're most needed.
I reckon it's probably worth 12 points.
12 points, nice. Hopefully that's the case on Wednesday night. Is there a different feeling in the sheds before a decider? Maybe players who don't normally seem nervous are a bit more nervous. We hear the old stories of Alf, who looked so calm on the field but nervous in the sheds. Is it a different feeling for the decider?
Yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, look, in Game 2 for the Queenslanders, the pressure was off. Still they would have wanted to win Game 2, but whereas New South Wales, it was just all or nothing. And so it's now back. The pressure is equal on both teams. It's all or nothing. And look, a decider, there's a lot riding on the game. So, yeah, the nerves are going to be higher. I always remember sort of pre-game thinking about my job in the first 5 minutes, but then I couldn't wait to get that roar when you ran out, because it just puts goosebumps on the back of your neck. And then singing the national anthem with them, yeah, it's a good sort of 5 minutes of your career. When you run out and then sing the anthem.
Yeah, it makes you feel 10 foot tall and bulletproof when you first go out there. And I think you probably feel it, especially when you're the home team, but you feel it a little bit more when you're in the opposition, and I'm sure New South Wales will certainly feel quite uncomfortable with that. It is worth points, there is no doubt about that. I used to like to bring in another couple of words as well, the fear of failure, what that'd be like. And I was never game to want to lose a match or to lose a game at home. Certainly you knew that you were given plenty of support from those around you and in the grandstands, and when you're playing away in that deciding game, you know that you've got no help at all. You've got to produce your best, and it's not always easy.
Well, it's knowing what it means to the state, but then, I always had that feeling, well, a lot of these people that are going to be in this stadium tonight have either come from a long way or they've paid all their savings to come and watch. Like, I want them to be rewarded for their effort.
Yeah, don't let them down.
And I want it, you want them to go home happy.
And also for New South Wales, heading into this, they've only won 2 deciders at Suncorp Stadium. That's a huge hill to climb. They'll deny it, but would it play in the back of their mind, New South Wales?
Well, if you look at the 2 deciders they won, 94, Ricky Stewart was a halfback, 2005, Andrew Johns. So you would say that Nathan Cleary's on the trajectory to be in that camp.
Good, yeah,
that's
yeah.
good. So for me, that's where they probably draw their confidence from. But I also think that that's the opportunity for us, that if we do our job against him and make his night difficult, then that goes a long way to win him.
Yeah, it's a gentle reminder for our guys that they're probably in a position that they'd rather be. Certainly the New South Welshmen won't enjoy to hear those numbers. It may inspire them to come up with a very good performance, but our guys, even during the toughest of times, I think they'll feel quite comfortable and they will rise to the occasion.
See, I think Freddie will come up with a game plan to try and minimise the pressure on Cleary. So Burton was brought in, he was outstanding Game 2. He got a big left foot kicking game, so yes, you can put a lot of energy and focus into what you've got to do to stop Nathan Cleary, but you also got to be aware that there's other guys out there that can play footy too. So, Billy's got attention to detail, so I'm sure he'll be across all that, but all that's going to be made easier if they hold the football and win that middle ground area.
Billy's also got a great respect for history. He called you into the camp while earlier this week. Were you involved in the jersey presentation, or there was a night at Suncorp Stadium? What was that like?
Yeah, it was. It was good. It was a nice casual evening where the guys were involved, and to see a couple of them being at Suncorp and having the honour of grabbing the Queensland jersey for the first time was quite remarkable. There was a few tears shed throughout the course of the evening.
And one of them was Tom Gilbert. Billy Slater said he was so emotional when he called it. Did you notice that?
He had his parents down there as well, so being reminded of something like that, that's something that you go through on very few opportunities throughout the course of your lifetime, and that's a wonderful honour, and it left everybody in the throat there. There were a few smiling faces, but I've got to say that to have that opportunity is something quite extraordinary.
He wears his heart and he's very passionate, Tom, so I think he'll bring that energy to the game. I'm sure he'll do very well and do us proud. And again, he comes from the Cowboys who've gone really well, and they've all got all these sort of young forwards, or forwards in general, that are coming from the Cowboys. They've got good habits. And
he also said growing up his favourite player was Darren Lockyer, but admits he went on the different trajectory to like a fast-running, playmaking fullback. He's the toughest nail forward now. So maybe we see maybe a Lockyer chip and chase to win the game for...
twin brother was there as well.
Yeah, he also had a twin brother, he said, inspired him to play.
Yeah, and he gave him a huge rap, which you could see there were goosebumps all over the arms of the guys around. That was a moment very few people ever forget. It's something that I'm sure he will take onto the field with him the first time he gets the chance. He'll be, thinking well in advance that it's not just the parents. The twin brother has played an enormous role in a lifetime, and the love of your family is something that Queenslanders always take out there. They do it. They remember how lucky we are.
I remember talking to Pat Carrigan. He got presented by Matt Scott, and he's saying how inspirational that was for him. Speaking of Carrigan, his Broncos in a bit of trouble at the moment, Lockie. How hard is it to navigate Origin period, missing so many players? Because I think they've got about 8 out. They'll almost struggle to put a team together on Sunday.
Yeah, it's always been, a difficult period for the Broncos. Maybe not in most recent years because we haven't had a lot of players playing Origin, but it's always been a challenging period. And I always sort of think that for a lot of clubs, it's not, like the Cowboys have, I think, got 8 or 9 playing,
They're lucky they've got the bye this week.
Yeah, so, I think the test always comes after the Origin series because the rep players come back, they're a little bit fatigued, and that form can drop off after the Origin series. But again, look, one window closes in terms of the guys that are out injured or suspended, but another door opens for some opportunities and some talent, young kids coming. So they bring enthusiasm. So it's just, I see it as an opportunity to really sort of, build some confidence amongst the greater team at the Broncos, not just the starting 17.
Yeah, I can't remember what year it is, but I do recall one of those performances, Lockie, where the Broncos were playing against the Tigers at Campbelltown.
Yeah,
I think it was the Baby Broncos when they first came into play, and it was one of the most memorable performances from the Broncos in their history. It was an unbelievable performance. No one gave them any hope whatsoever. Yet the young boys, they went out there and they basically booked a spot for themselves in first grade in the years that followed by an enormous performance, and it was something that that gave the Broncos plenty of spirit for years to come.
One of their Origin players who's not playing Origin at the moment, Tony Staggs, his form seems to have dipped a little bit since Origin 1. Is he carrying maybe an injury or is that a hangover? Or?
Yeah, maybe his confidence down a little bit after being dropped. But, I think that's all part of the learning curve. You just got to, learn how to react to that. I guess the best way to react to being disappointed is to just come out and play well, just play your natural game. I mean, what I love watching him do is his aggression with the football and without it. So I just think he just needs to focus on being physical with the football and without it, and I think the rest will come.
Yeah, and usually when he gets beaten in a game or somebody gets over the top of him, it's not too long before he puts the shoe on the other foot and makes sure that he proves just how good he is, and we see a great performance from him.
And one win the Broncos did have last week, re-signing Selwyn Cobbo. How important was that to do before he almost come off contract for other clubs to negotiate with him, Lockie?
Yeah, well, the clubs, there was probably...
There was 16 clubs chasing him.
I know, so wonderful talent, good kid, and it's good, it's... And we obviously were aware of his talent, and now that he's played Origin, his price was bumped up even more. So, it's good to get him signed up, and it's a testament to not just Ben and Dave, but also Simon Scanlon there, who's sort of taken over the recruitment, and he's got a lot of relationship with these kids that are coming through, and I think there's a mutual respect there amongst the parents, the player, and Simon especially. That's keeping these young guys at the club for less money.
And look, he shifted around a little bit. He didn't spend a lot of time there, but he's had a little bit of a run in at fullback, shifting positions in there. And I thought his performance while he was at the back was an indication of where I'm headed for the future. He produced some wonderful efforts, and his positional play was fantastic, like he'd been playing there all of his life.
Well, he's very much like Latrell and Gio, and we keep referring to those two, but he's still learning, and he'd be getting a good insight into the endurance you need to play at fullback, because you've got to be everywhere and anywhere with the football and without it. But the closer he is to the football, and the more understanding he gets of the game at fullback, the more dangerous the Broncos are going to be.
And just finally, before we wrap it up, we've got to talk about the lowly Gold Coast Titans getting worse to worse. Justin Holbrook, I know you guys are both fans of him. Too harsh the criticism? Should his job be on the line, or would you keep him safe for the rest of the year?
Look, I think he was appointed to that position because the Gold Coast had enormous confidence in him. They had seen his prior performances, what he'd been able to achieve previously, and how happy the players were working under his direction and guidance. So I do believe that there's an enormous future for him. Whether it be at the Gold Coast or not, I really don't know. They're not having a good season, the Coast. I've got to say that I probably thought that they would be doing a lot better than what they are this year. So I simply don't think it's the coach's fault, although on numerous occasions like this, it's the coach that gets to punt and the players can sort of stay on. It's an interesting future there, but I did like what I saw from him very early in his career.
Spoken like a bloke who got sacked by the Gold Coast as a coach.
Yes.
Expert.
Just swept into the rubbish bin and emptied out.
Oh, who'd want to be a coach? I like the guy, and I think it was evident last year when he got him to the 8 that he can coach. I just think they're down on confidence. And look, when you're down on confidence and you've got a lot of inexperience, particularly in those key positions, it's just very hard to dig your way out. Once they will dig themselves out, but I guess it's just how much patience the hierarchy have got there till they dig themselves out. Like if they continue on this trajectory this year, then unfortunately for Justin, the pressure's just going to keep mounting. So they need a kill soon to sort of give them some energy and start to turn things around.
Well, hopefully Tino comes back from Origin and starts killing it even more for the Titans and getting some wins. But before then, hopefully he gets a win in the Origin Decider. You can catch all the action live and free on Channel 9 in the wide world of sports in the lead up to that decider here in Brisbane.